Hi, I'm Morgana the Doll Witch, where I take science and a little bit of magic to make my dolls their very best selves. And so today, as requested, I am doing a video on how to widen the jawlines of our dolls. I will say that this is not a process you can do on every kind of doll. All right, not different manufacturers have different skulls. I'm going to be doing this on a WM doll. You can do this on a 6Y3. You can do this on I believe on a RF doll, but you cannot do this on a Quinta doll. This is what a Quinta doll skull looks like minus the holes. I've had to re-sculpt this skull because like they took two different skulls and put them together to make this skull. Not thrilled about that. Also, Quinta dolls do not have eye sockets. So I didn't have a pair of eyes that I could use for my doll Gale that didn't make him look like his eyes were about to pop out of his head. So I've drilled holes in. I've got metal caps that I'm going to epoxy in there. And then I had to rebuild this side because it was about a ½ inch sunk in compared to this side. And so when I went to put the head back on the skull, it just looked like crap. And I took it off because I went to install horn mounts, which are neo magnets. I epoxy them to them, and I could not get them to set because the sides were not even. So I had to go in and even this out. Not thrilled about that. Anyway, so there are some things you're going to need for this process, and I'm going to give you the list. First of all, you're going to need TPE paste. If you haven't seen the video on how to make TPE paste, go watch that video first because you're going to need this for this process. You're also going to need some 3M tape primer 94. I will put the vendor on eBay that I get mine from, which is the absolute cheapest place I found it anywhere. It also has to be stored in a glass container with a metal lid, or try to put it in plastic, you'll eat right through it. Also, when you are working with this primer, you should wear a mask in a well-ventilated area. I actually end up buying an air purifier, so when I'm working on the dolls or I'm working with this stuff, it keeps the toxins out of the air. I will have the link to the data sheet for the 3M primer, so you know what precautions you need to take and what this warning are on it. You're also going to need super sharp scissors. You're going to need some paint brushes. You're going to need something to like spread on the TPE. And you can use, this is a cocktail, I get these cocktail sticks, they're like 50 for $1. They're out of bamboo. Love these things, use them a lot. Or you could use a plastic knife, but know if you use a plastic knife, it's going to end up looking like this because the primer eats this plastic. That's why I typically don't like to use plastic on it, because it looks like, it's not very good after that. You're also going to need plastic wrap, and you'll see why we're using the plastic wrap, because after you've put the insert in and put the TPE in, you're going to want to wrap that plastic wrap around to keep the inserts in place, keep it closed so that it can dry and set. Okay. And you're going to need either hand sanitizer. This is 80% alcohol. Hand sanitizer or alcohol to clean the areas. And so I did some prepping beforehand. One of the things I did was I cut the inserts out. Now, they're not very big. They're not very thick. You don't need much, okay? But you might want them thicker than this if you do this on your doll, okay? How wide do you want the jawline? I always think, do you want a Kevin Cavall jawline? Because he's got a big old jawline. I think it's pretty hot, but that's me. Or do you just want a little bit more, okay? Since this doll is supposed to be like an elf, I hadn't planned to do this for him anyway. I don't want it to go very big because and that wasn't the plan. But I think it actually will look pretty good anyway. The other thing I had to do is, and let me move this down so you can see, is you have to open up. And so you just pull the skin away from the skull. The skull is made of fiberglass, and this is TPE. There's actually a hole right there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I'm going to have to plug that. I'm going to put some paste in there to plug that hole up. And what I did is I just pulled the TPE far enough back that I could get the insert in there and get a little bit more paste behind it, so make sure it's set all the way around the insert. And then I didn't go to the mouth. Don't go to the mouth, okay? Just go to, I just went on either side, close, but not to where the mouth is. If I would have to go a little bit further over to get to the mouth. Don't go that far. And then I went back here a little bit past where the earlobes are, okay? And I have, this is just a plastic container with a towel and a cloth in there. I use this because it's soft. It keeps the head from getting pressure on it, but I can move it around, okay? And so the first thing I did after I opened that up was I took some hand sanitizer and I sprayed in here and cleaned all the gunk out, because you want to make sure that you don't have anything in there, all right, when you go to close this back up. And then, so you take the little inserts, and so this 40-degree angle here that you see that I made, okay, that's going to be this part right here, okay? This square, you're wanting that square jaw. That's what you're going for. That's the, you think about a man's face, a masculine man's face, they typically have a pretty pronounced jawline. And so I'm going to set this here. And here's the thing. When you cut your inserts, and I actually had to cut these down quite a bit. I started out with something twice that size and cut it down. But I don't want to go very big, okay? And so you're going to put it in there, and let me put this one over here. You want it to get a little bit symmetrical. You don't want it too, But I'm trying to go with because like this doll kind of has that jawline, but I want to emphasize it a little bit more. And so put that in there, and you're looking to make sure you've got it in the right place. And so, like you said, it's not going to be much, and it's just enough to give him a little bit more of a masculine line, okay? And you could go bigger, you could make it a little bit wider, so have more of that, like I said, that Henry Cavill, and so make that jawline a little bit more. It's up to you, okay? It's whatever your preference is. Now, like I said, I'm not doing that much. So once you've gotten it in there, and you might have to go in here and move it around. The one thing I do want to say is, when you do this, you want the insert at least 3/4 to an inch away from the edge, this edge here, okay? You've got to do that, or you're going to have problems with this coming open. And you might have, and I will say, you might end up having to go back after it's dried, because sometimes, it just does things and you can't get it all the way closed. And put more paste in there, and make sure you clean off, and you'll see, clean off the excess. When you wrap the plastic wrap, it might push some out, so you might have to go in there and clean that up later on. All right, well, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. It's not a lot, but it does give him definitely a more masculine, more of a distinct jawline. I like that. And so here's why you use both the paste and the TPE and the primer. So the primer is used for the insert next to the skin. The paste is going to be all the way around it, to seal that back up, because the primer will not stick the TPE to the fiberglass head. You're going to have to use paste for that, okay? And so I'm going to go in here, and I really like the placement. I don't want to move the placement, so I am going to take my it's not the paintbrush I want. That's one would work. I'm going to take this paintbrush. It's not a very big one. Actually, you know what? I don't think I want to take that one. I know, you're like, well, pick one then, right? Here. Paintbrushes are starting to get ate up. I will say, I do have a video on supplies and stuff that you would use to do these modifications and accommodations. You can buy a big old package of like 24 paintbrushes, different kind of paint implements for like $6 or $7 at either Walmart, Michael's, or Hobby Lobby, okay? Most craft stores. So I'm going to do the primer first. I want to stick the, kind of start working on getting this insert stuck to the TPE, okay? And make sure I got it in the right place. Looks like it. I need to move that one down a little bit more. I'm just kind of taking and putting move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting a little bit of primer. You don't need a lot, just a little bit, okay? And I want to make sure that I got this right here at the jawline. Oops, that's not it at all. Okay. Nope. Keep moving around. And you just kind of, you know, is it symmetrical? You like where it's placed. And let's pull this one back a little bit more. And put a little bit more primer on that. And you do have a little bit of a window to work. Okay, not a big one, but you do have a bit of a window to work. And so, you know, if you've got to pull it off, that's okay. It'd be better to pull it off and redo it completely, like, you know, make a whole new insert, than not have it in the right place and not be happy with, you know, how the jawline looks. And so, and you're going to want to feel, does it feel symmetrical? Does it look right? So I like how that looks. Definitely gives much more of that squared jaw. And so now that I have the inserts there, and that's why I put the primer on there first. And really, honestly, you kind of should let the primer set for an hour or so, but I'm not going to do that today. And so let me close this back up. And then you'll take your bigger brush, and you're going to take your paste. Oh, that brush might be too big for that bottle. Okay. You just gotta get in there. And actually, what you can do, if you don't want to use your brush, you can take this. You've got to be careful with this, okay? Make sure, so let me show you the consistency. Consistency is like honey, okay? That's the consistency of the primer or the paste that you're going to need for this project. If you do it too thick, you might have lumps, and you don't want that. If you do it too thin, it's not going to stick, okay? So you definitely want this kind of like honey consistency of the paste. And so what I've done is I'm going to open this up a little bit, and I'm just going to start putting the paste down in here. And you want to make sure you're going all the way down. the way down in there, all the way up here. Ugh. Sorry, we've had the door open earlier, so unfortunately the bugs got to checking out what I'm doing. Now you don't need a lot of paste, okay? But now your window starts shortening. So I've only got about 10-15 minutes to get this before this really starts congealing. But here's the thing, you don't want to put too much paste in there. First of all, if you do that, you have too much paste, it can eat through TPE. I mean, basically all this paste is that primer and melted TPE that it melts. And so I'm going to get back up in here. Anywhere that I opened it up, you've got to put paste on it. Otherwise, it's not going to seal back. Okay? And you're going to want to make sure that you have paste around here. Okay? And looks like it's a little loose around there. All right. So now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to hold it a little bit and put some pressure on it, even pressure around the hole, and see what squeezes out. Whatever squeezes out, take a piece of paper towel, take your alcohol swipe, and spray it on here. Wipe that excess off, okay? Now, you can go back and trim this off later, okay? Do not get the alcohol down in on the paste. Looks like that side's going to need a bit more paste in it, okay? So I'm kind of running out. This is where you start running out of time. You got to work fast. All right. Okay, clean that again. Get all the excess off. All right, I'm going to dry that. And now you're going to take your plastic wrap. Here's the thing about plastic wrap, you can reuse this for these projects. Now, I'm going to take this piece. Now, I already have a piece on the top of his head. If you did, I would put the piece first, and then after you're done, then wrap it around. But right now, we got to get this secured. And so I'm putting this here. And you want to make sure that you put pressure so that it's closed, and that might mean you have to go in here and now this is going to need to be left for about 36 hours at least. Okay, about a day and a half. Go back in if you see that it hasn't closed. Use a little bit more paste. Okay. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna connect this to the top part, and you got to be careful because, like when I did this, it pulled away. So sometimes, let's see what side's giving me the fits. Okay, and so I'm gonna wrap more saran wrap around the head. I might even do angle it back here so that you make sure that you've got pressure all the way around that so that it can set and dry like you want it to. Okay, and so that's basically it. That's all it takes to widen your doll's jawline. So if you have any questions, concerns, please leave a message in the comment section. Once again, we always appreciate when you guys give us a like. If you want to subscribe, we appreciate that as well. And I am Morgana the Doll Witch, where I take science and a little bit of magic to make my dolls their very best selves.